Hey, it's Hunt. You found Hunt on Saints. We're talking black and gold football. Do us a favor. Hit the like button, share your comments below, and hit that subscription button so you can get all of our content. Enjoy.
Did Taysom re-aggravate the injury?
No, it's ribs on the other side.
That's Dennis Allen talking about Taysom Hill back on Sunday. Asked to the re-injured chest. No, it's ribs on the other side, he says. And obviously that was pretty impactful in the game. Dennis Allen was asked again after the game, like how much that impacted the game.
Well, look, I mean, you lose a player like that, it affects you. But I still think we had enough guys on the field that could have made enough plays to give us a chance to win.
I don't disagree with that completely, but the fact of the matter is that Taysom is a big piece to what they're doing. The question is how big a piece to what the Saints are doing. I saw a statistic on Twitter, and I want to give attribution here to Steve Renner, who looked this up on Twitter, and he said that the Saints have had 18 drives with Taysom Hill this year and 18 drives without Taysom Hill this year. On the 18 drives with Taysom Hill, they have 11 touchdowns. On the 18 drives without him, 2. Each has produced 4 field goals. So with Taysom, you're talking about 15 scores in 18 drives. Without him, 6 scores in 18 drives. That is a stark difference. The question becomes, okay, well, is that just a coincidence, or is there a causal relationship between those two?
And another one I just saw with Matthew Paris. When Taysom Hill is on the field, they average 6.7 yards per play against the Falcons, and then when he was not, 4.1, and then they average 6.1 yards per carry and with him on the field, and then only 2.6 without him on the field.
And it's an incredible thing because all these statistics point to a certain direction. Taysom's very important. Taysom's vital to what they do. Taysom gives them another dimension. All these statistics that we can roll up. And then you actually look at Taysom Hill's statistics, and it doesn't necessarily add up. I mean, against Carolina, yeah, he beat the brakes off him. He had 5 carries for 35 yards. That's very effective, 7 yards per carry, but it's 5 plays. They targeted him twice in the passing game. He caught one of them for a yard. So it's not like he went nuts in the game. He had 36 yards total. And then you go to the game against Dallas, and he had 3 carries for 18 yards. And then he had a catch for a yard. That's 19 yards. And then you go to Atlanta, and he had 6 rushes for 24 yards, 4 yards a pop, and then he came out of the game. So, yes, there's a wildcat element that Kamara's not quite as good at. Yes, he gives you a bit of a unicorn situation with the fact that he can line up at tight end, line up at running back, line up at quarterback, do all those things that nobody else in the NFL really does. Yeah, you like the 4th and 1. They hand it to him when he's stacked up there in the wing back formation, and he runs forward. Like, they do some things with him that they don't do with really anybody else. But the impact that we're talking about here with Taysom Hill and how massive it is on the scoreboard and with these scoring drives and in wins and losses and all of these things, it doesn't really bear out in his statistics, which is interesting. So Dennis Allen was asked if they're over-reliant on Taysom Hill. Do they depend too much on him in their offense? And this is what he had to say yesterday.
I think we still feel like we moved the ball and we scored a touchdown to take the lead with a minute to go in the game. So I felt like there were still some things that we could do. I think that we've got to eliminate, some of the mistakes that cost us a little bit. But yeah, I wouldn't say that's the overriding factor.
And it would be difficult for me to sit here and tell you that they're over-reliant on him. I just gave you the statistics. They're giving him the ball like 5 or 6 times a game. That's not over-reliant. You want to tell me that the Titans were over-reliant on Derrick Henry for a decade? I could maybe get on board with that. They were giving him the ball 28 times a game. This is some wrinkles here and there. It's not a staple of their down-to-down offense. It's just a great wrinkle that they've got that most teams in the league don't have. And so DA was also asked on Monday, do you have to monitor his durability more, being that he's a little bit banged up and he's over 30 years old?
I think we got to keep that in mind, and I think I've said that for the last couple of years. You're talking about a guy that's, he's had some injuries in the past, and he's still an effective player. He's getting a little older, but he's still an effective player. And so I think we got to be mindful as to, how many times we're running him into the briar patch.
Yeah, be mindful of how many times you're running him into the briar patch, but you're not shoving him into the briar patch 28 times a game. I think you just kind of caught a couple of bad breaks where he got the chest injury, and then you thought he might be able to go, and he couldn't, so he sat for a week. And then he came back in, and you got a rib injury on the other side. He's physical. He runs hard. He takes a lot of contact, yes. But if he can't run to the quote-unquote briar patch 6 times, how good is he? How useful is he? Here's kind of my analysis of this big picture. I think the Saints need to feature Taysom Hill game to game. I think he gives the opposition a lot to think about when he's in the huddle and you don't know where he's going to go when he breaks the huddle. I think you've got to account for him on most plays, and I think the Saints are doing a good job of involving him in different ways. I praised them after the first 2 weeks for tossing the ball to Taysom Hill and throwing the ball to Taysom Hill and doing the direct snap to Taysom Hill and lining him up at running back and lining him up at wide receiver and splitting him out wide and getting him back in the Wildcat. And I applauded the Saints for that and still do. They still should do that. But they're not over-relying on him, and they're not putting him in harm's way. This is just some crummy luck. And unfortunately, the crummy luck has struck at guard. It's struck at center. It's struck at wide receiver. It's struck at running back. It's struck at Taysom. It's struck at linebacker twice. It's struck at safety. It's struck at corner. Crummy luck is prevalent right now in black and gold. But I don't see anything wrong with what they've done with Taysom Hill. I don't think they're over-reliant on him. I think he's very important to what they do. I think they should continue to feature him if he's healthy. And I can jump on this organization for any number of things over the last 3 years. The last month of using Taysom Hill is just not one of them.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think there may be some people that say that the stats are a little skewed because he tends to finish off drives and then in the goal line. And obviously, the Falcons game was an example of that where he had 2 touchdowns. But I think the effect he has on the game is just way more than him getting the ball. I mean, he can be. We've seen him be a blocker, and he does what he does well in that sense. And just him being on the field, when he's on the field, the team has to account for him every single play he's out there.
You know where Chris Olave is going.
Yeah.
You know where Shaheed is basically going. Yes, they've tossed him the ball a couple times. You know where Juwan Johnson's going. You know where Alvin Kamara is going. You don't know where Taysom Hill's going to go. They break the huddle, and then it's like, okay, well, we got to go find him, and then you've got to have someone to account for him that's capable of handling that assignment, whether he's going out and cover it for a pass, whether he's back there in a wildcat spot, whether he's lined up at tight end. You've got to have someone there to account for him, and that is different than preparing for anybody else in the NFL at this point. So, you can look at some of the guys that are used fairly similarly, not completely. Like Deebo Samuel in San Francisco does a lot of things. They hand him the ball a lot. They get it to him on end arounds. They throw him balls, certainly, but he's not a traditional wide receiver. Like Taysom's not a traditional player in that sense. But to me, again, I can get on DA for a number of things and try to critique some of the decisions they've made. This is not too big a workload. This is not a situation where the offense completely bogs down. The Saints, without Taysom Hill, didn't score as many touchdowns as they did early in the game, but they did drive the football. Consider the fact that Taysom didn't play in the fourth quarter. They drove right down the field, got to goal to go at the 7-yard line, and they didn't get it in. Now, you could say, well, if they had Taysom, they could have gotten it in. Well, they drove the ball the length of the field, and they didn't score a touchdown. There's no guarantee Taysom Hill was going to score a touchdown there. And then they got the ball back, and they did drive it right down and score a touchdown. So, again, I don't have a huge issue with this. I understand the importance of the topic. I understand the beat writers asking these questions because I think they're worthwhile to ask, and I think the answers are interesting. But I'm in the Saints' corner here. I think they're doing everything right with Taysom Hill. I think they've used him properly when I did not think they used him properly last year. I thought too often he got things going, got into a rhythm, and they went away from it. I think they've done a good job with him this year, and I think they'll continue to if he's healthy. and we'll see if that's the case on Monday. You got an extra day to get ready, and we'll see if Taysom Hill can give the Saints a bit of a spark in Kansas City. If you're looking for Saints Talk, you can find it on our YouTube channel, Hunt on Saints all the time. Subscribe to it. You'll get it right to the homepage, Hunt on Saints. Also, we're embedding videos into all our stories at louisianasports.net now. So if you're there reading some articles, you'll also get the corresponding YouTube video right there at the bottom of the story. So one-stop shop there over at louisianasports.net. Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.